And welcome to this very special segment of TI Now. We're joined with Franklin Flint. He's the Chief Technology Officer for the Telecommunications Industry Association. And Franklin, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. Just this morning, very important press announcement by TIA about the first vendor-agnostic NFV Lab in North America. I want you to elaborate a little bit on that announcement and the importance of the lab itself.
Certainly. So just yesterday, the board of directors for the TIA approved us moving forward with a new lab where we're going to be testing interoperability and compatibility of NFV solutions and demonstrating successful tests so that the industry can learn to accept some of the good stuff that's going on more readily because they can see a third-party neutral test environment proving that these things can happen, as well as help the companies who have yet to build out that compatibility to do that work. By creating an environment where they can work together, companies who already work together in some places, but in other cases that haven't worked ever together, we're going to bring them into one place so they can get that work done and deliver things that the industry hasn't seen yet. But with the promise of NFV, the ability for every component to work with every other component is absolutely crucial. We're years away from that happening, but this lab is a way to move that forward much more quickly than it would otherwise happen.
So assuming that I've never seen or heard of an NFV lab, that's Network Functions Virtualization Lab, can you explain or illustrate the physical functionality of that lab?
Certainly. So among other things, we're going to create multiple NFV platforms, working from the bottom up with the hardware, the software, the operating system, the NFVI architecture such as OPNFV, which is where we are here, or other proprietary solutions or just OpenStack solutions that are out there. And then above that you have orchestrators that manage all the functions moving around between these architectures. The goal is to show that an orchestrator can move the network functions around, that service level agreements could possibly be managed across multiple vendors and multiple solutions, so that the industry can start picking the right stuff for their network when they need it, rather than becoming a vendor tie-in solution where they buy one thing once because it was right at that time and then being stuck with it for years and years and years. They can buy the right thing at one time, and then if a better thing comes along, they can move to that and be confident that all their solutions will continue to work across the new vendors and the new solutions that come in.
Franklin, clearly there are other NFV-like labs out there, some more narrow in scope and perspective and approach, and others more in wider scope approach. Which one's more beneficial, narrow or wider?
Well, I think they all provide an extremely valuable service. I mean, everyone who's making an NFV solution today has a lab to make sure that everything works. Not only their own solution, but their partners' solutions that they're selling and who they're working with in the industry to fill the gaps in the solution. Because the industry wants to buy solutions. And so if you don't make everything yourself, you have to partner, build ecosystems, bring people together and make something that can be delivered. But you have to choose who you're going to work with. Obviously, you're probably not going to go work with your most fiercest direct competitor to become compatible and everyone's happy and it gets along great, because then it's kind of hard to differentiate in the marketplace. But on the other hand, we all realize that that's what the network operators are looking for. So a certain amount of compatibility and interoperability is absolutely necessary, or else those carriers aren't going to be interested in buying my solution or someone else's solution. And so along those lines, there are a lot of labs building specific solution ecosystem products that are great and ready to go. There are carriers who are forcing the hand of the solution providers to work together in ways they may not otherwise want to work in, as well as doing the work to guarantee the zero downtime network and the guaranteed performance level and the best cost for the money and to meet all the requirements they have for the networks already. That work still has to happen because every network operator has their own set of requirements for everything that goes into their network. Then there are some research labs at some universities that are doing some interesting things, and that research is absolutely critical. But of course, it's who wants to play is in those labs doing that work. And then there are other people trying to do the agnostic compatibility testing, and that's really important work. But they're mostly focused on doing very specific, this product works across these two platforms, and that's a very important goal. And it's something we'll do a little bit of. But our goal is to get to a broader, the ecosystems together all fit together in some way, shape, or form. We believe there's an opportunity to develop a testing procedure for every layer of the NFE model that can become, down the road, a standard or a way to get consistent results throughout the industry. That's something that's very valuable, I believe, in the industry.
Franklin, clearly NFE Labs is still a nascent concept, if you will. From a technology standpoint, what is the one highest priority challenge that you're finding in putting this together?
The lack of standards in this space is a huge player in trying to make this actually work. Right now, we're already seeing a lot of incompatibilities in the labs that are attempting to do some level of it, like some of the vendor labs, some of the carrier labs. And that lack of compatibility is very often because of the interpretation of the basic frameworks that exist, or even the nomenclature of how they refer to what sort of APIs they're building and how things are connecting together. And so I think there's opportunity to create those standards so at least we get a baseline of how things can connect together.
Certification's clearly an important factor, attaching itself to really any lab, but in this case an NFE lab. How important is that, and how far along are we in this process?
We are very early in the process of having anything reflecting certification. Certifications are incredibly important if they mean something. If you can buy something that has a certified stamp on it and that absolutely guarantees that it does what it claims to do, that's incredible. The problem is it's hard to create a certification stamp on NFE because what people claim to do isn't consistent across everyone's solution. And so there's going to be a need to drive to a broad consensus of what is required as a compatibility or interoperability spec, a testing procedure, a set of rules, a set of performance requirements, a set of failover requirements. Once that standard gets developed and established and a testing procedure can be written against that, then you can certify against that testing procedure. Our lab will certainly be one place that will be driving towards that end result. The work that Etsy's doing with their NFE ISG group is really important. That's got to continue going forward. The work that OPNFE is doing here with their stuff is very important, and that needs to keep moving forward. There's a lot of things that need to come together to make that happen, but the technology is still very young in order to get to the point of having a common standard to hold it all together.
You said previous to us shooting this interview that it's more important to work with other groups instead of working against them or competing with them, although competition is good in a lot of cases. In this collaborative sense, maybe not. We're at OPNFE, as you mentioned. What do you hope to learn from your dialogue, from your discussions with people here?
Well, OPNFE is a really fascinating thing. The industry declared that this is a necessary project that needs to bring the OpenStack technology forward to support carrier networks. And they're doing great work here to get that done. Everyone that's participating is truly contributing to something through an open source fashion that could very easily change the industry altogether. But there are competitors to OPNFE. So the work that's going on here is very important and very critical. It's going to make a huge difference. But there are other people doing things that are slightly different or very different from OPNFE. So while I'm here, I'm looking to see what problems are they trying to solve, how far along are they, what are their next steps on what they're going to try to be working on and delivering to the industry. And then I'd like to find out from all the participants when they think that OPNFE technologies will start appearing in solutions that are being sold into the market and potentially even being deployed into the network. I think that's a very critical thing to be asking about, because the work here is really good and it does some wonderful things, but I personally don't know how soon we'll start seeing that in deployed networks, and I'd love to hear what other people are thinking about that.
Franklin, I know you're working very hard on TIA's NFE Lab, again, the first North American vendor-agnostic NFE Lab, and we'll catch up with you in a few months and see how it's going.
Absolutely, this is great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.